Resident Evil Reboot director reveals which parts of the franchise he avoids. That's just not my thing. So I seen this article a few days back and I was kind of debating if I was going to go ahead and do a video on it, but I feel like this is something that I do want to talk about and I kind of do want to go over just because of the fact that, we have had so many different iterations of Resident Evil movies and stuff like that that at this point I'm more than skeptical. You know what I mean? I For anyone that, is well aware, Resident Evil is probably one of my favorite franchises. It's probably second to Zelda, but yeah, as far as the games go and everything like that, it's definitely part of my favorite games. I got to say my favorite game of all time is Resident Evil 4, the original. So being a Resident Evil fan and everything like that, and seeing that they are going to be taking another shot at doing some movies has me really worried, especially with some of the information that's come out and everything like that in regards to the director not necessarily wanting to go off of any of the games specifically. It's just kind of upsetting in the sense because of the fact that we had the original movies that came out back in like 2001, I think the first one was, and just continue on where they took some liberties from the video games, but they didn't actually base it off of any video game in particular. And then the same thing happened with the reboot that happened a few years back where they tried to do Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2 in one movie altogether, which really rubbed fans the wrong way because of the fact that, if you were going to do a Resident Evil movie, you might as well just do one video game and do a story like that. Now there's people that have made, these comments here and there that, the Resident Evil games, the first one, is going to be something that would be a little bit difficult to kind of do into an hour and a half 2 hour movie and make compelling. Personally, I don't agree with that. I feel like they could have done something really well with the first game if done right, but there are a lot of skeptics out there and everything like that, so at the end of the day they didn't really have faith that the games would be able to have a story that's well enough to be able to hold on its own. So it's just one of those things that I love the franchise, and I would really just hope that we can actually get a good iteration of a movie for it. But who knows? We'll have to at this point just wait and see. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over some of the information here in the article, and then I'll give my thoughts as we go along. So after early praise was given to his Weapons movie, director Zach Krager's upcoming Resident Evil reboot promises to be something unique, and the auteur recently revealed which projects from the popular zombie franchise he avoids during the film's development. Resident Evil has been adapted to live action before, thanks to Paul W.S. Anderson's film series that ran between 2002 and 2016 and starred Mila Jovovich. Now, when the first movie came out, I didn't mind Mila Jovovich in it because of the fact that it's had somewhat similarities to the first game. You know what I mean? It had a mansion. They didn't necessarily have any of the main characters: Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Barry Burton, individuals like that, or Albert Wesker, and it was just a little bit unfortunate in that sense. But at the same time, it felt like they at least tried to kind of stay somewhat true to the video games. Now, as the video games, progressed and they decided to continue on with the movies, it didn't get anywhere, near being able to kind of be similar in that regard. You know what I mean? You had Resident Evil Apocalypse, I think it was, where they try to do somewhat of Resident Evil 3. They had Jill Valentine in it, but it just went into its own direction because Mila Jovovich was the main character. And it was really annoying and really, bad that they decided to go in the directions that they went, especially after that. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? They happened. You can't really go back on them, kind of a thing. So we'll just have to kind of move forward in that direction, which is unfortunate. So, Resident Evil, or Biohazard as it's known in Japan, is a survival horror shooter from Capcom that first hit the horror scene back in 1996. And the IP expanded to include television series, comics, novels, and audiobooks. The latest game to be announced is a multiplayer strategy game, and Resident Evil Survival Unit will feature some iconic characters from the franchise. Fans also have Resident Evil Requiem to look forward to, announced during Summer Game Fest, which will be released next year alongside Craig's rebooted movie. Yeah, and that's one of the things too is that I got another video I'm gonna be doing maybe tomorrow or the next day in regards to Requiem. And as far as the games go, the fact that we're on nine, 9 video games in the series, and we still haven't really got like a really good, faithful adaptation to the movies is just a testament as to what Hollywood has been doing and how they've been messing up with this franchise. It's not hard to do a zombie movie. We've had so many in the history books as far as filming goes. And the fact that they can't seem to get like a decent Resident Evil film done right, it's kind of weird, man. You know, Obviously with the first one, it done decently, and as the franchise continued and everything like that, obviously they made money, and part of that also had to do with the fact that a lot of the budgets for these movies weren't anything crazy. They were decent amounts, which was able to help give a return on their investments and everything like that. But the fact that they kept making these movies that didn't stay true to the video games, and they got even like progressively worse as it continued on. It was just one of those things where it just, as a fan of the video games, it saddens to see. You know what I mean? It really made me upset to kind of see the direction, and to the point where I haven't even watched like the last few films of it because of the fact that they've kind of butchered it so much and done so terribly with the lore. So I just decided I'm gonna stay out of it, kind of a thing. So Resident Evil reboot director didn't watch Paul W.S. Anderson's movies, and personally, I feel like that's probably on the better side. It's probably a good thing right there. So posted in a Deadline report via MovieWeb, Kreger revealed that he hadn't seen any of Anderson's previous movies, nor the recent Welcome to Raccoon City. I haven't seen the movies, and it's just not my thing. But the games are my thing. That's just a playthrough I just love. I think the movie is going to rip. So, well, we'll see. The director explained, but confirmed, he had played all the games, including Resident Evil 4, which was played 100 times through. Gregor shared that he wanted to tell a story that feels like it's honoring the experience you get when you play the games, which fans will surely appreciate. Previously leaked plot details for the Resident Evil reboot suggested the movie's placement in the game series, noting that the events of the film will feature in intact Raccoon City initially. I haven't seen the movies, that's just not my thing, but the games are my thing. That's just a playthrough I just love. I think the movie is going to rip. So in a sense that is kind of a good thing because of the fact that he knows the games, he's understood the lore. And one of the things that can be kind of a positive is the fact that he hasn't played any of the, I mean, he hasn't watched any of the movies in regards to Paul W.S. Anderson or Welcome to Raccoon City. So hopefully it is one of those things he won't have to be worried about kind of doing stuff differently from those, because I mean, from what it sounds like, he already has the initial plans to kind of do his own thing altogether and not necessarily keep close to what the video games are going to be, I mean the previous movies are going to be doing. Now when it comes down to the story and everything like that, it does seem like he is kind of making his own thing altogether. So in a sense, it is one of those situations where it can be decent compared to, let's say, the other films. But at the same time, it is a little bit hard to get in line with something like this because there's so many of us Resident Evil fans that just want something that resembles the video games, that like honors the video games. Not necessarily is something that's like, oh, it's in the spirit of Resident Evil, but it actually like is Resident Evil, a mansion story. Leon going to Raccoon City for the first time, Jill trying to get out of Raccoon City while being chased by Nemesis, something like that, where we can actually have a movie based off of it. And it's getting to the point where it's kind of like, I'd rather just keep up with like the Residents of Evil guys, the individuals that have the YouTube channel, just them doing something, fan made, as opposed to trying to watch these movies that don't necessarily stick with the lore of the games. So we'll see. So earlier in the year, a rumor reported that the Resident Evil reboot had found its lead star in a Euphoria actor who will reportedly play the role as Courier Bryant, who gets caught up in Umbrella's shenanigans while fulfilling a late night delivery. After meeting a mysterious stranger on the road, all hell breaks loose as an outbreak which unleashes tentacle-based mutations and bioengineering monstrosities. So obviously they're gonna go with something kind of similar to, you know what I mean, like William Birkin or something like that with tentacles and everything. But who knows? You know what I mean? Hopefully it's at least kind of stays true to what the video games are going to be doing. It sounds like it in that sense, but at the same time, hopefully it kind of gives you the at least the feel of something Resident Evil, but we'll have to wait and see. So despite referring primarily to Capcom's video game series during the development process, Kreger's revealed how his Resident Evil reboot will differ from the games. While trying to craft a unique experience that feels authentic to the source material, the director noted that he didn't play obediently to the lore's rulebooks either, which his main aim being to craft a compelling story. Kreger stated that he'd never seen a movie quite like his rendition of the iconic story, but some fans remain skeptical if any straying from the original games is mentioned. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you as a fan, you have to be skeptical because of the fact that Hollywood has just screwed this up so many times. And in a sense, it's like, yeah, he wants to go off of like the same feel as Resident Evil, but at the same time, as a fan, it's like we want Resident Evil. And the also him stating that he's not necessarily gonna stick to the lore rulebook either, that just leaves fans even more skeptical because of the fact that it's gonna be him doing his own thing, from what it sounds like. And at that point, it's like, well, if that's gonna be the case, why don't you just make your own movie instead of doing something Resident Evil, like and trying to go off of the name and get that fan base? I mean, that's the main reason why they're using the Resident Evil name is to get the fans. But if it's gonna be anything like the previous movies we've gotten in the past, all that's gonna do is just piss off more of the fan base and just leave them even more dissatisfied and unwanting of a sequel. You know what I mean, or just more of another film or sequel at this point. So I don't know, man. We'll just have to wait and see, wait as more information comes out. But at this point right here, I'm not really having high hopes for this. I'm really skeptical, and I don't necessarily think this is gonna be something that's gonna do too well. You know, even if it does well and it is something that he's stating kind of sticks to a feel of Resident Evil, at the end of the day, as a fan, you're gonna know it's you know, it's somewhat the closest thing we got to a good Resident Evil movie, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be Resident Evil. So I don't know, man. I don't necessarily have a lot of hopes for this. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be good, but we can only just wait and see how things go and just pray for the best. So those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you guys have faith out there that they are going to be able to actually do this game franchise justice when it comes down to a movie, or do you think they're going to just screw it up and mess up like they've done in the past? Personally, that's what I think is going to be the case, but if you guys can let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you guys could like, share, subscribe, greatly appreciate that. And yeah, until next time, Harmonic out. Peace.